Hey guys, this is Tyler Byrne. I host this show. It's called Lo-Fi Lit Boom. I interview authors, poets, and people I'm interested in from the internet. This week is the week of AWP. I'm going to be headed up to Baltimore, and I have several episodes that I have not put out yet. And I feel like if you're at AWP, if you're not at AWP, which is like this big, dorky, nerdy, corporate fucking conference for like book people, and it's like really not creative events and not creative things going on. It's very boring, and I guess everybody wants to go and do offsite events. The offsite events is where everyone's at, and it's weird because I consider the offsite events, I just say AWP. Yeah, I just refer to everything as AWP. It's all the same to me. I don't fucking care. Like, it's so, we need a better name for the offsite events, and it shouldn't be at AWP. It shouldn't be following the stupid fucking thing that we don't even like and can't even afford. And it's overpriced. And we have all the fucking complaints every year. I don't know. Anyways, I think we should just hold stuff in Asheville or Tulsa. I don't know. Anyways, a lot of these people I'll be seeing that have been on the podcast. And yeah. Gion Davis, returning guest, been on several times and done readings. We are talking today about his book, Designated Stranger. By the way, check out Carmen E. Brady's interview with Gion Davis over at Zona Motel. You've read several of these poems on the podcast. I feel like you read like when you first came on.
Yeah, because it wasn't even like, that was a while ago now.
It was like was that 2 years ago?
It must have been, yeah, because I was still living at my old house. So at least, 2 years ago. And that was, I guess I like knew that I was putting a book together, but that was definitely like pretty early on. Yeah.
There's so much stuff in this book, it's hard to like grapple and like pin something down. I feel like I haven't related to a book in like some time, and I really related to this. Maybe, I don't know if it's the masculinity thing, or it's I don't know if it's the masculinity thing. It's like the way that the poems are like, you reference fire a lot, and like, I guess in a fire metaphor, it's more like it's smoldering, soldering, like smoke, like rising, like gradually over time, with the passing of time. And there's this way that like you come in the book, it's like a repetition of a certain form of poem where it's conversational. It's like 5 or 6 like words, like in like a long kind of stanza that goes along the page, and some of them are like 2 pages, some of them are like 4 or 5. But it seems even like for the speaker, they come to this way, they come to this poem to like express and find themselves. Because even over the course of the book, like the first poem is almost like it starts off like it's a sequel or something, and they're like telling, kind of instructing about like what things like people don't tell you, and then, or like they're leaving or escaping from something, and then at the end of the book, the speaker has come to like reconciling with like a past and trying to find joy from it, maybe, or just trying to like reconcile with the past and like present it to an audience. And they're doing it through the form that they found. And so, does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense. It's interesting to hear you say that, because I think like the first poem in the book, it wasn't like the first poem I wrote for this project, but it was definitely like the first thing that felt like I had a project um, to put together. And then the last poem in the book is the last poem I wrote for the book.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, so it's like that's a nice thing to hear that there is that like arc to it. Because I feel like that was kind of like intentional in a way, but also just like the passage of time, you know.
Hmm. But do you see that like through the book you return to a certain form to like express
hmm
these certain thoughts?
hmm
There's a line at the end, like your end lines. It's like the poem is so powerful itself, and then you'll hit at an end, and then sometimes you'll shift with another line, and it hits even stronger. Like the
hmm
line, every day, like even when you look at the house, like every day it's still the same, and the coffee is weaker.
hmm
If you want to be reborn, you have to do it yourself. And it says something like that, but it's better than like what I said.
That's pretty close.
But it like fucking hits, man. It's like that's a you shifted a vibe, and it could have went bad, but it hit even stronger.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Do you, when you're writing though, like, do you know that you're doing it? Do you know that your end lines are like way better? Or like you have to like hit at the very end? Because sometimes there's a really good poems that like they have a momentum and they have a speed, but the end doesn't like hit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like actually like I'm gonna catch I'm gonna get flack for this, but I do feel like John Ashbery does that a little bit. You know, like he'll have some like such a great poem, and then the last line will be like, "Oh, you should have just cut that one," you know.
Hmm.
um, I think with the end lines though, like I think a lot of the way that I've come to ending poems for this book, especially, is really related to like doing them live
Oh,
as
for
a
real?
like
That
in
makes
performance.
that makes sense because like for me to like read stuff recently, like I read it out loud. And this was like
Yeah.
the first book I feel like it's meant to be read like out loud, like a conversational way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading it out loud since before it was a book, you know, like the ones that I read on the podcast the last time. I've been performing a lot of the poems in that book for like literally years now. And I think that doing that has really changed, like the just doing performance so as much as I've been doing in the past few years, like has really changed the way that I structure poems and like having the end be strong is important, I think, for an audience from an audience perspective, especially if you're like reading poems to people who don't necessarily go to poetry readings very much or like read poetry at all. Um, like you want it to be kind of emphatic or memorable or something at the end.
Do you That's a hard way. That's hard. That'd be hard to hit, like, because it's like single and individual, but then you're also like reading to an audience, and you don't want to be like too like widespread. You don't want to be like too universal because then it'll come off cheesy.
Yeah,
Do
I
you like
think
when you read a poem, like you read like a poem, maybe you don't have the ending yet, but then you go home and you're like, I need to like you like know what you need to say.
I don't know if I know what I need to say every time, but I've definitely been in some situations with poems where I've read them, I've performed them in front of an audience, and I've been like, well, I don't know if that one was like a good one for that, you know, and either like I just don't perform it anymore, or I take it back and rewrite it and try to restructure it a little bit. I think it's interesting, like the vagueness versus specificity on poems. Like I actually think that specificity can be really helpful, but it's like you want there to be like a really specific emotion, like at the end of a poem. I think, you know, like not as
Hmm.
necessarily like a moral or a thesis or something, but like as like a little kernel of feeling you can like take away that um you know isn't vague
Yeah,
to you as the audience member. Maybe it's vague to me, but you know.
something that was also interesting. The trans stuff, you would bring it up like once, and then you would like
Mhm.
move on to other stuff. in other poems, when like I'm not saying it's good or bad, but like in queer poems or trans poems, it's usually like there's a power dynamic that pops up that I'm used to. I feel like when I'm reading poems, and then in yours, it's different because then it'll shift down to like the gradual pace of time, and like you're
Hmm.
really good in that. Like, yeah, maybe it's just my expectation of reading so many poems and queer poems and stuff.
What do you mean by like, uh, what did you just say? Like the queer poems, like having like
It's like
tension or something? Like what?
it's not tension, but like a power dynamic where
Yeah, power
it'll
dynamic,
become like a manifesto, or it'll turn into
right?
a poem. I don't know, like the energy in it. I'm used to going a certain
Yeah,
way, and with yours, it'll like shift, just like
I
with your
feel.
inlines.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I feel like when you're queer in general, but also if you're trans, like it tends to be the thing everybody wants you to talk about. And like
Yeah.
people do think it's like the most interesting thing about you, you know?
Hmm.
Like you're a freak or something and you need to talk about what a freak you are all the time. And I don't think that being trans is the most interesting thing about me at all, you know? Like
Yeah,
it's
like
just
the
part of my like life. It's part of who I am, but it's I don't want that to be the only or the first or the most important thing about my work, you know?
Yeah, I think that comes across in the poems because you'll bring it up once and then you'll move on to other stuff, and the other things will even have like a bigger like impact, I think, over the poem. I think like Jennifer Espinosa also came on, like said similar things to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they were tired of, or she was tired of like colleges or even contests, like
Mm,
only focusing on that.
yeah. I mean, I think it's hard, like, you know, because like I don't know if you feel like being queer is like boring, you know, like it's just you're just a
Yeah,
person. It's
it's
not
very
like
boring.
and you know, I feel like we're expected to make it like really interesting or make it seem like really fraught or horrible or like I don't know, fucked up in some way on a day-to-day basis, but like it truly isn't. You're just like, I mean, I go to work, I'm just like a guy, you know?
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
no one cares about that at all in most of my life. And it feels sort of, I feel like it's a little unfair that like with poetry and art, like there is this expectation that you have to like make it your whole identity, um, to like, I don't know, get attention or do anything, you know?
yeah, that's a hard balance too. Like I've said this a lot of times. Like I wanted to make like a gay magazine, but then like there's so much like weird balancing that goes on because I don't want. It's weird. I'll
I
probably do
think,
an issue though that's like just like once and like it's just queer. But like maybe people, I'll try to get people not to say queer or gay or trans, or like try to like
yeah. Well, I think that those spaces, like those magazines, can be really cool. And
hmm
like I have one that I bought at a used bookstore that's like from the seven or not, it's from the 80s, I think, and it's got like Dennis Cooper and stuff in it when he was really young. And like I think those are beautiful artifacts because they are like very special when we're all together. But yeah, you do, it does have to be sort of delicate because you have to like curate it about being about art and not about like people's identities, you know.
Yeah,
I
that's so true. What was the was it a zine that you got?
The one that I was just talking about. Yeah, it's like a, I can go get it. It's like a, or I'll send you a picture of it or something. It's just a magazine from a while ago. It's like actually like a, like thick. It's not like a zine.
Uh, Dennis Cooper has like he wrote like a book of like essays, but it's like assignments that he got from like different magazines over the years, and
Oh,
he talks.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've read a lot of his writing over the years. I don't know if I've ever sat down and read that one all the way through, but I've definitely read some of his essays and like a lot of his poems. Yeah.
I think those are the only things I've read from him. I tried to read his fiction, and it just like it was a little too odd for me. And I think people like expected me to like Jim Skipper because he's gay or like he's
Right, that's
transgressive.
another thing about being queer is like all of a sudden everyone's like, well, you'd love this person because they're also trans or whatever. And you're like, do I have to?
Yeah.
Uh,
Is
but
there any
my
author that
brother,
you try to? Is
what's
there like
that?
a specific author that people have like brought up to you? Like you need to like
I
and like
mean,
you're overrated.
I don't know. I mean, it's really funny like when you're in poetry because people will bring poets up to you and you're like, "Oh yeah, I like know that person, but I don't know how I like feel about them as like an entity or whatever." I've gotten like for example, like people have like told me that like my poems remind them of like Charles Bukowski or something, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I guess like I see the
Mhm.
connection, but it's like I don't really want to be compared to him. But I don't know. I've gotten like Eileen Miles before, which is cool. I think Eileen's a cool poet. And uh, like, I mean, another person that which makes sense because it's just sort of the time we live in. But like Ocean Vuong is like a person
Mhm.
I don't even think I have a lot in common with as a poet, but I think people like he's a poet a lot of people have read, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
So,
What do you think of Ocean Wong?
oh, I mean, I think Ocean is like a good poet, you know.
There's a lot
I
of
think that,
controversy because
well, he was like when I was at UMass, he was teaching there, and he was like my thesis. He was one of my thesis advisors. He was on my defense committee, um, and it was an interesting experience. I don't think that like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter that much, like, because it's all just writer inside baseball. But like, I think he's kind of a capitalist, like, he goes on Oprah and he like sells his poems to Valentino for ads and, that kind of stuff. And I think that there's nothing wrong with getting your bag, but I think he's also like, I think that's the core of the controversy. And I like don't disagree with that.
did do you feel like he is sinking out like money over treating people in the right way?
I think it's like an individualism thing. I think it's also complicated because obviously like he is like the child of immigrants and like also grew up like very poor and I think that it's just complicated and like different intersectionalities, and
Hmm.
I think he I think he is pretty focused on like his own success most of the time. But I think a lot of poets are. So it's sort of hard to like he's being singled out because he's like the most famous one right
Hmm.
now, but he's not that different from a lot of writers in the end.
Was he not a great like teacher or like instructor person?
I only had one workshop with him, and I thought his workshop was great. I mean, it was very like uh, he was very focused on like not being in conflict with each other in workshop, which is good. And it was very competitive to like be in his workshop.
Oh, for
Um,
real? So you could
yeah,
like you had like a gusto about you. You're like I'm one of the best.
I don't know if it was even that because it's like they didn't pick you based on like who was better or anything like that, but
Oh.
people would be like annoyed with you if
Oh,
you
for
were in
real?
his workshop and they didn't get in.
Um,
But I don't know. I had like an interesting experience like when he was my thesis advisor, like when he was on my committee. I was in my thesis defense and we were talking about my book. This is my first book. This wasn't the most recent one. And he asked me like where I was sending out the book to, and I was like, oh, like Song Cave and like Night Boat. And he was like, you have to think bigger than that. Your book deserves better. And I was like, those are big presses for me. Like Night Boat would be huge. And obviously
I
that's not happened yet. But uh and then I found out that that was kind of the advice he was giving everybody that he was like on the committee for. And I was like, that's like he wants you to make like he believes that like everyone could do what he's doing. And could make a living out of being a poet, which I don't think that everyone can, and I think that the reasons that he is like he was just in the right place at the right time, I think, in a lot of ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And not that he doesn't deserve it. I think a lot of poets deserve it, but yeah.
You wish there were more like people that were like able to like quote unquote make it like him.
I wish like making it wasn't even a question. Like I wish it was like it wasn't so all or nothing, you know. I wish it
Mm-hmm.
was like we all have universal basic income to make art and we don't have to like some of us have to like scrounge around while others like get teaching positions like tenure at NYU at the drop of a hat, you know.
Mm-hmm. You're so good. Like I wish you would like. I kind of agree with his advice. You should be sending your work out to like major places.
Oh, I did send it out to like bigger presses. They just didn't want it, which is fine. I was a finalist for Yes Yes, which was like the biggest
Oh
thing that's
yeah,
ever happened. But
that's a
I'm
big
not
deal.
sad about the press that I'm on now. I think that they're doing a great job and I like them a lot. I like working with them.
No, yeah, it's a cool book. I'm just like, yeah. I guess. Do you think that's good advice that like he was giving out? Like you should be sitting. You should be like at my
I
level.
don't know. I mean, I think everybody should take their work seriously and like want the best for it. But I also don't think that like being on Copper Canyon is necessarily like the best thing that could happen for someone's work, you know? Like I think there's a lot of different options
Mm-hmm.
for becoming successful or whatever that means to you. And I think that like I don't know. I think for like a lot of people in art, like the idea of success is that like you make it, I'm making air quotes, you make it big somehow and like then all you know it's like Bad Bunny like, you know, 10 years ago he was like a waiter and now he's like playing the Super Bowl, but
Mm-hmm.
that happens for very few people and the idea that like being famous on that scale is like is success and everything else is failure is like not
Real.
correct, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I don't even know what I mean. Like when I say making it, I just like that's what you say.
Yeah, I think on like some ways I don't think that the advice to like want more for your work is bad advice. I think that that
Mm-hmm.
is good. I think a lot of people like could benefit from advocating for their work more, you know. Probably almost everybody in this
Yeah.
world where no one gets paid for anything and it's all fucked. But I don't know if like trying to get on a big press like Penguin or whatever is the answer.
Yeah. So are you going to AWP?
I am. Yeah, I am. I mean, if DC doesn't get nuked before next weekend,
Yeah. I hope not. Yeah. That's
I'll
fucked
be
up.
there.
Stupid. Well, are you on any readings?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to some readings, but I'm also doing a lot of readings, which is cool.
Which
I
ones?
feel I'm reading at the Bull City Press reading on Thursday, the 5th. And then on Friday, I have two readings. One of them is the Publishing Genius reading.
Okay.
Um, and then the
Where's that?
other one is, where is it? I don't,
Yeah.
hang on, I'll find it. I gotta look at it on Instagram. I don't have it like written down in a professional way. Um, and then it is it's at Normal's Books,
Okay.
which is like a very cool bookstore in Baltimore. Um, and then I'm also reading for that Milk House series that's like based in Baltimore that this guy Jeremy I know runs, and that's
Yeah.
at Bianca Stone is reading at that one, and it's at the Hargrove in Baltimore, and that's also on Friday. And then Saturday, I'm doing the pre- fine print fine print paper reading, which is at I should have prepared this better. Hang on.
Oh, you're fine. I can
Uh,
edit out the.
right, you can edit out all of my. It's at Old Major on Saturday, fine print paper reading. Um, So yeah, I have a few things, which is nice.
Any Sunday stuff?
No, actually, we're not leaving until later in the day on Sunday, but I'll just be hanging out, I think, which is nice. Unless something comes up or whatever, but
I'm going to my sister's orchestra on Sunday.
whoa, in
Yeah,
Baltimore?
yeah, like she lives in like some little county, maybe just outside of Baltimore,
Oh, cool.
between Baltimore and DC. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Are you going to any? Are you going to go to any of Lucy stuff? I think she's only doing like one thing.
Well, she's reading at one of the readings that I'm doing, the Publishing Genius one.
Wait, she's
So
reading at.
she's reading at that one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm gonna try to go to the Zona Motel one, if I can, if the timing works out.
Who else is
It would
reading
be
on the
fun to see
publishing?
everybody. What?
Who else is sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
who else is reading on the publishing genius one?
A lot of people. Let's see. Uh, Lucy, Claire Taylor, Andrew Weatherhead,
Oh fuck.
um, Joe Young, Matt Cook, Claire Donato, Johannes Göransson, um, among others. But I'm also that one's like a longer slot for me. Adam, who runs Publishing Genius, is giving me like extra time, which is cool.
Are you like the
So,
headliner?
well, me and a couple other people, but yeah, I think so.
Oh. Are you? How many books are you taking up there to like sell?
I personally only have like 10, like maybe not even 10, like 8 books left right now.
Well, that's probably
But
good
then
for
the
them.
press will have some.
Okay.
Um, so I don't know. I'll have some books, but I don't feel too worried about it.
Are you gonna sign them and charge more?
Yeah,
Yeah. Good idea.
sure.
So, is your band gonna go up there?
No, no. Mike is coming, but
Okay.
I'm not doing it with music for AWP. I
Is it?
unfortunately can't afford to fly everybody to Baltimore.
What's the? I bet the drive is like fucking forever from here.
It would be like 3 days. Yeah, it'd be
Yeah.
so far.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you ever done a 3 day like road trip with your band?
Yeah, I mean we've toured with the band for like weeks
Oh,
even.
for real? Oh.
Yeah, I mean last year we did 2 week tours, um, which was cool. And we've been on longer ones too, like 3 week tours in the past.
So 3 days would be like nothing then.
Well, I mean, it's also like winter, like the weather is so
Yeah.
bad, you don't know if you're gonna actually get there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's also like with my job and stuff now, it's hard to take that time off to just drive somewhere.
Who pays for the hotel? You guys like all pitch in?
No, I mean, so like with the band, because it's like mine and Mike's project together, um, Mike actually pays for a lot of it, and then hopefully, like at the shows, we make a little money, and then we can kind of pay for stuff from that. But yeah, Mike and I pay for a lot of it, but we both have like jobs, so
What about the
we
other
can.
guys? What about the drummer?
Well, we pay them because they're like taking time off from work to come on tour
Oh.
with our band. So it's like we want it to feel like they're getting compensated for their time.
So they don't pay the hotel?
No.
Oh. Dang, they're getting a free ride.
Well, it would be like optimally, it'd be like we could pay them better than what we actually pay them
How much
because
they getting
we don't.
paid?
I don't actually remember off the top of my
That's
head.
all right.
It's like I don't know, $900 a person for the 2 weeks, something like that.
Oh wow. Do you want to read one of the poems?
Oh, sure. What would you like? I actually have the book over here. Which one would you like me to read?
Let's do the last one.
The last one? Sure.
Yeah.
You love my old ways. I died once before, but I had no idea I was going to get old. Rusted out sky for the pelvis of the country where my existence was denied. The wrong name on a grave. Butterfly kite in the crabapple tree. The years balled up in socks. If I didn't have bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. A woman as blonde as her dog looked at me from the gap. She spray painted her belt black. Ankle tattoo of a dragon above Adidas Sambas talking about her alien beliefs. Would you break the law for those you love? Guns, saints, drugs, my manhood a Learjet rotting on a lawn in Tennessee. Barefoot woman and a dead pony on the side of the road. She says Elvis was one of the last men who mattered, extinct with the Carolina parakeet. I drenched myself in Memphis. I mean the mud. The mud might glitter. If you never look over your shoulder, the future will not arrive. It's a little on the nose, like vultures on a ruined house, like turning swastikas into hearts in the stalls of the love's bathroom, like vomiting pale green foam into the magnolias on the streets of New Orleans. Up north, they are burning the forests of Mississippi, ghosts ambling in the smoke, scruffy cows posted up under the pylons, crimson clover spilled across the embankments like all beautiful blood, fishing rods and F-150s. I have given up on context. You don't need me to tell you the killing of the world is the absence of responsibility. You play hard because every other touch has to be soft. Sublimate your anguish hemmed up in the honeycomb of railroad ties. The only righteous thing you can do as an American is die. But if you don't want anything larger than a blade of grass to cut through you, lay the fuck down. This is the demon of joking around. I try to say goodbye and the train sobs. Maybe if I hadn't met myself somewhere else, maybe if my heartbreak hadn't been my own body, I never would have heard it. On the porch in my underwear, long night of Arkansas, moon setting crescent as two thorns in the honeysuckle, and the roaring coming from nowhere and everywhere, the sound of my life, with my boots on backwards.
Fuck. Maybe the thing I said at the beginning wasn't as correct as I thought it was.
About what?
Reconciling with a past.
I don't know. It's not wrong.
The boots on backwards is really good.
I actually did that. I was like trying to go outside of the house I was staying in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I like couldn't see what I was doing because it was dark, and I put my boots on the wrong feet and went outside.
It makes it. How do you do that? Does it hurt your
Do what?
feet?
No, I mean it was
boots-
just like an accident, and then I was like trying not to wake other people up, and I just like was like I just committed. I was like,
Oh, they're
it's
on the
too
wrong
late.
feet. I imagine them like actually like backwards and like you going like walking. Yeah, that's why the end like was like you're walking into your past or dealing with the past.
Yeah, yeah, that's a cool interpretation of that for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Any other lines that were like deep? They came out like deep, but were like based off just like a inconsequential like moment in your life.
Oh, there's a lot of those, to be honest. I feel like most of writing is like taking inconsequential moments and like othering them.
But making them like powerful is like pretty talented. Can you talk about the opening line to the about the dogs?
Oh yeah. I mean that one wasn't like inconsequential. That one's sort of dark. There's a poem
Yeah.
for the people listening at home. There's a poem in the middle of the book that starts, I never said my favorite night was when we shot those dogs together. Um, and that poem, but also that line is like about where I grew up in New Mexico. And I grew up on a ranch, on a sheep ranch in New Mexico, and in the where that is, like there's a lot of just like loose dogs. Like it's not as bad as it used to be when I was a kid, but it's still like people just either dump their dogs in like the the open land by the river, or their dogs get out and run off, and don't have collars and stuff, and they'd come into our property and attack our livestock, and then, um,
Oh yeah.
you know, it being the Wild West and all, we would go uh, discourage the dogs from attacking the livestock by shooting at them. And that was about a time when I wasn't a kid anymore. I was like between college and graduate school, I think, um, where I was just home in the winter, and that was happening. And my dad came and got me, and we went out there, and yeah, so
That's
it's literal.
how is it to shoot a dog that you know you have to shoot, but like that's hard.
I mean, it's like, I feel like it's an interesting, like, I mean, when I was growing up, it was very like that kind of. It's funny. I was talking about rodeos earlier today, and I feel like when you grow up on a ranch or a farm, like that kind of harshness or violence is like very like quotidian. Like you don't really pay attention when you're a kid. It's just like how the world is. Like the idea that people are like really precious about like animal life is like not part of it. And when you're doing something like that, the part of your brain that like becomes really territorial and like vindictive like turns on. Um, and it's interesting. Like it is like being kind of removed from that now, obviously, as an adult who doesn't live on a farm anymore, and I live in a city. It is like uh, it does feel kind of shocking that like you can feel that way about like something.
Yeah. Do you get really vindictive?
No, I mean not
No.
really. Not usually. I feel
Mm.
like with that kind of stuff though, it's like you get into this like it's like almost like sports or something. Like you have to win.
Yeah.
I feel like with other people and stuff, no, I'm not like a very vindictive person. I don't have the attention span to hold grudges
So when
against people.
you're in your MFA and everyone's like really competitive, you didn't like get like super jealous of other people and like fight them and shit with your words.
I mean, it was really competitive when I was there, and I feel like I was very young. I mean, I didn't feel I was very young. I was like 21 when I started the MFA,
Oh
and
wow.
almost everyone else there, I was the youngest person um, in my cohort.
So they were
And
jealous of you.
I don't know. I felt like I mean, being like in your very early 20s and you're competing with somebody who's in their 30s, it feels like I was like very lonely for the MFA mostly. Like it was really hard to like make friends in that environment. And I didn't feel like I was, I didn't really feel like I was in competition with people because I was a lot younger. But I mean, obviously I was in some ways, but yeah, I mean, mostly it was just like feeling like shunned or something more than anything else.
Yeah, there's a line in here that like speaks to something like that. Where you're like you can't miss
Oh yeah,
things that if you're not there or something like that.
yeah, there's that
Really
one.
good.
Oh yeah, I know what I'm doing and why is the poem. And then
The
yeah, the
thing
thing about not belonging anywhere. Yeah.
the thing about not belonging anywhere is you don't have anything to miss, so you miss everything without knowing what you're missing. It's fucking good.
Thanks.
See, these a lot of these could be like a poem, like in of themselves.
Yeah.
Do
I like the length. I like to stretch it all out.
you ever write like just little tiny poems and then you smash them together?
I actually, yeah, that is sometimes like the method where especially with the longer ones, like Super Bloom, like the one that's like the five, it's got parts. Like that one, I feel like is a whole poem, but it was like written in pieces. But I do actually do a lot of like I'll write little chunks of things and then I'll sort of like Frankenstein them together. later when I feel like I know what the vision is.
Did you ever write a poem and then you went and like did it in front of an audience and you changed it drastically?
um, I don't know, like the poems in this book, not really. These poems, like I feel like I edited them a fair amount to get ready for publishing them in the book, but they were pretty like the actual content and structure of them hasn't changed very much. There's been some poems recently that are just new poems that aren't in the book that I have like performed a couple of times and then decided that they needed to get changed.
You've perfected
And
your practice of writing so well that you don't really need to change your poems.
yeah, well, no, I
But
feel
you've
like
been
it's
writing a long
interesting.
time.
Yeah, that's true. It is interesting, like when you finish a book, like you have to teach yourself to write all over again. And I also feel like not every poem I ever write can have like a pithy, like really hard-hitting ending or something, because then it sort of dilutes the rest of it. You know, it dilutes all the poems next to each other. Like that is an anxiety I actually have about this book. Is
Oh,
like
for real?
I'm being like there's too many poems that end with like and then my life was like this or something, you know. But
I don't know.
uh yeah, I mean it is like an interesting balance to like feel good about a poem and then you read it in front of people and you're like, well, actually, I don't know if this is as done as I thought it was.
And then you put it in a book, and then I guess you see it a different way.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't want it to do you feel like sometimes your poems like subtract from one another if they're next to a weird poem?
Next to a weird poem. I don't know. I don't personally think, I mean, one of the things that I like, my first book was very much like a collection. You know, like I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it, I put them together, it was collected, whatever, you know, and that's like a way to do it. And then this one, I really intentionally wanted there to be a lot of cohesion and uh like thematic narrative. And I didn't want it to feel like a collection. I wanted it to feel like a book. Like you start at the beginning and you finish at the end. And so, you know, I think that I sometimes, because I've read them so many times and I feel like I don't like sometimes I'm like, why am I still reading this poem? Um, I can feel a little bit like they diminish each other or something, but I actually in the order that they're in the book and everything, I don't really feel that way.
Are
I
you
feel
gonna
like when
do
I
like?
read
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, I feel like sometimes when I read them, I personally feel like they're diminishing because I am tired of them. But, you
I can
know,
see that. Yeah, you'd have to like get someone else to read it, like
yeah,
Mike.
yeah.
But does he ever read it in a way you're like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be read, and then you like get mad at him?
Oh, no,
Okay.
no. I feel like there's always, it's an interesting, like when people are around or interacting with your work that way, there's always like some kind of funny disconnect, but it usually is more just interesting to me than anything else, you know? Like,
Do you do you want this to get into the hands of trans readers? I mean, of course you do, like obviously, but like, do you want
yeah, I mean,
to be like a
I
trans
feel,
like book?
I mean, it is a trans book. I feel like
Yeah.
it definitely is. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that is like what I want the most for it, honestly, is for like other trans people to read it and like enjoy it and not feel like it's trying to tell them how to be trans or something. I feel like that's another thing about queer books, like a lot of times is like they're trying to tell you how to like
Hmm.
do it or whatever. And I don't think that most people need that. Like most people know how to do it by just being themselves, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But I hope that if trans people do read it, like that they feel like, you know, there's a window into another life that's like theirs in some ways.
did you send it to any like trans like prints? I guess, but maybe that like goes into the that's the balance of the identity thing. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
mean,
what
I
it.
definitely have trans friends who have read it, and like, I actually like my trans friend who got married this past summer. I like wrote a poem for his wedding, um, that I did at his wedding, and uh, I've like took the book on tour like the month before it came out, actually, like with this I was opening for this band, and that was a very sweet experience. That was like a very crazy experience in some ways, but there were a lot of people there who would like came up to me after the show and bought a book, and like, very clearly trans people who were saying like, this is really important to me and I'm glad that you're here and
Oh
all that
fuck.
stuff. And that's very
Well, that's
cool.
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit. So why the designated? Why the title on the book? Maybe that's
Well,
something
I
I
actually had
should
the
check out.
title like I had the title like way before I even really started the book. Um, I don't know. I was like hanging out with like a friend group. I'm not even friends with them anymore really, but it
Mm-hmm.
was right after lockdown, and somebody said the phrase like they were talking about like like designating a driver for like hanging out at a bar, and then somebody said the phrase designated stranger in relation to the designated driver, and I was like, that fucks. That's really cool,
Oh,
and it was like kind of a joke to that person, but I like took it and kept it, and I thought about it a lot, and I feel like it's like two different things for me. And one of them is like I wrote this book a lot. A lot of this book is about like the first couple of years of me transitioning, which is a very difficult time, I think, for like any trans person. It's like very alienating and weird. You lose a lot of friends, like your relationship with your family gets really, really weird. Um, you're nobody wants to hire you, like just it's very alienating, and it's very like uh uncomfortable, and I feel like when you're that person and you're in a room, you kind of are like the designated stranger in the sense that like you are just like everyone knows you're different and everyone is like acting like it. um and and then the other thing is like, as a trans person in America, you are so othered by the forces that be, regardless of how well you like quote unquote pass or whatever, you are always going to be like an enemy of the state, and you are always going to be a stranger. And also, I guess the third thing is that I think that Americans in general are just very estranged from one another. And so in many
true.
ways, like, you're a stranger in a country of strangers, but you're like on another level from even that. And I think that's the that's the why the title like stuck with me, I think, and um felt important for the book.
Fuck, that was deep. I'm gonna clip that out and put that like at the front
Cool.
of the pod. Yeah.
Nice.
Shit. Did you like come up with that on the spot, or you
Kind
had it?
of. I mean, other people have asked me this question
Okay.
before, so I've like talked about it before, but I have thought about it a lot. I feel like um I mean, I also like when I was submitting the book, I like wrote this out like as like a concept. Like, you have to write a letter when you submit, and so that was part of the letter too, of like explaining what the
You
book
have
was
to
about.
explain your book.
Yeah, it's like you write like a cover letter for your book, basically. Yeah, but then you can just use the same one over and over again. So
Oh,
you just
okay.
really have to do it one time.
How long does the letter have to be?
Not long, like two paragraphs, and then like your bio. You know,
What if you
nothing
can't
crazy.
encapsulate it in 2 paragraphs? You ever just write a poem for the what it's about?
It's what you kind of have to do. Like, especially if you
Hmm.
want people to like pay attention to it, you kind of have to make it poetic.
Yeah, I see some of these blurbs and like I have no idea what the fuck they're talking about because they're like poems themselves.
I know.
So a lot of it is about nature actually, and I feel like nature even becomes like the speaker has a relationship to
Hmm.
nature. It almost is a therapeutic thing, just being out and alone and having their thoughts,
Hmm.
and it helps generate the poems in some way or empowers. I don't know. I don't know if it empowers or just it's there, but it is like an existing part of themselves.
Yeah, I think that I think that the nature thing, I mean, I feel very connected to the natural world in for a lot of reasons, but especially when you're, because a lot of this book is like about being on tour. I wrote a lot of these poems like while I was traveling in a car around the country, and you just see so much, and you experience so many different like biomes. It's like almost like it's like video game
Yeah.
like levels, where it's like all of a sudden you're in like the water level or you're in the desert level or whatever, and there's just, I mean, this country, America, is just there's so many parts of it that are so beautiful and special. And I think that, again, like, not to be like everything is about being trans, but I feel like when you are trans, there's this like interesting relationship you have with the idea of like nature, quote unquote. I'm using a lot of air quotes in this interview. Sorry. But like
You're good.
nature, because like, everybody, when you are trans, like people tell you to harass you, they're like, well, you're like going against nature, and you're like, but also at the same time, like the fact that you can just like inject yourself with like a teeny tiny amount of liquid every week and it like changes every single part of you is crazy. Like that is a crazy relationship to have with like the natural world and your body. And also the other thing of like nature being so persecuted by capitalism um and everything, and it's such a like I feel like you do feel like somewhat like there are things that we do to ourselves to completely alienate our existence from nature, even though we are also animals,
Yeah.
um, and that like the persecution and alienness of like queer people is directly related to like the persecution and alienation of the environment of the natural world, you know,
Whoa.
and I think that that's like it's all very connected to me in my head anyway. And um, yeah, and I think I actually said this in that Zona Motel interview. I don't know if you saw that one, but like I think that being queer, like because of the experiences that you have with other people, I feel like you end up being. I feel like A, you can become very evil, or B, you can become very empathetic to like everybody, because you have to find a reason to like justify the way people fucking treat you. It's like I have to understand like you are a very repressed person, and so you are treating me this way or whatever it is. And I feel like that can be extended to having a relationship with the natural world too.
Do you ever turn to the evil side of you?
The evil side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always feel very angry and like I try really hard to not turn that around on people. Um, I feel I feel like the evil side is like just the evil shit that everyone does every day, where it's like I go get in my car and I go to work and I live in America and I throw away my cans and the recycling that's gonna all get thrown into a landfill, like just stuff like that. You're just always like doing little tiny horrible things all the time.
Do you ever put a hole in the wall, like your fist, and you go, "Fuck this"?
I have never done that. I have never done that. I don't know if I'm strong enough, to be honest. I feel like I'd just hurt myself.
One day it'll happen. Your
One
rage
day.
will come out. Just push through the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nature stuff though, it doesn't suck because a lot of poetry, nature. I fucking hate nature and so much. And usually I do. I don't like reading nature poems, but like this, just like is good. It's just you write well, and
Oh,
it
thanks.
integrates itself into the poetry.
I mean, it's like I also feel the same way a lot of the time where I'll read like I feel like a lot of people it's sort of like it is like a black and white sort of thing where it's like either this is a nature poem or it's a
Yeah.
people poem, you know? And
Hmm.
I struggle with that because I don't feel like you can as a person completely write like I'm not a tree. I don't know. Like, what are they
Hmm.
gonna say? You know, they don't write
Yeah.
trees don't write poems, and so like I feel like you have to include the fact that you are like an observer or something.
Hmm.
And I do agree with you that there are a lot of nature poems that are like very boring.
Yeah. So who do you like to read? Like right now?
Who do I read?
Yeah.
Um, well, I just finished Sasha, like that, the Joy is my middle name, Sasha McKinney. I don't know if I'm getting her name right, actually. I don't have her book right here. Um, that's a fantastic book. I've really been enjoying that one. For the for this book, for Designated Stranger, I read like all of Larry Levis's work, um,
Who's
which was
that?
like kind of part of a. He's a poet. I actually have his book sitting right next to me, but it just came out. This is like the collected works because like I'll show it to
Oh
you.
wow.
Um, he didn't write that many books. He was from like the Fresno area of California. His parents were they were raisin farmers.
Um,
So they grew grapes for raisins. And he lived in a bunch of different places, including in Denver. And he wrote some very beautiful poems. And he also like died very young. He died when he was 49 of a drug overdose. And um,
what
yeah, was
drug?
like a very tormented person and wrote some very beautiful poems because of it. And his work was out of print for a really long time. I don't know
Mhm.
why, like just complications with his estate or something maybe. But they finally put this into a collected works, which is great because I have like scans of old library books for most of them.
Oh wow.
So
You're like
yeah, I
committed.
read him a lot. I mean, Diane Seuss is like one of my favorite poets
Yeah, and
ever.
she blurbed you.
She blurbed my book, which is amazing. I don't know her at all. That was just like a cold email that I sent her, which is cool. But yeah, I read her book Frank Sonnets like it was a Bible or something. You know, like
You
I
when
just
you
always
s-
had it with me.
when you send an email for a blurb, do you say that in the blurb, like in the email?
I said it to her. I said like because she's like from rural Michigan and also grew up poor and queer, and I like sent her this email saying like I think our work has a lot in common, and I read Frank Sonnets like over and over again, and I also she also like ironically blurbed this Larry Levis collection, like she's like
Oh.
into the same poets that I'm into, and
Did you bring that up?
no, I had no idea she was doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I got the book in the mail, but she like I also sent her like a couple of the poems that had been published in magazines just so she could see, and she sent me an email back saying like she's been taking a break from blurbing books, but she read my poems and felt like she wanted to support me because we're both like rural queer writers, and she wrote me a fantastic, amazing blurb, which is
Oh
really
shit.
cool.
Is that how the others you got?
The other
Oh
blurbs.
wait, before you go into that, can you talk about the Levison guy? Like, so before
Oh
that
yeah.
book came out, you went and searched. Like, how did you find out about him?
Well, do you know Matthias Silvina?
Mm-hmm.
So he did like he loves Larry Levis too,
Oh.
and I did like a workshop with him. This was like the winter of 2021, probably. And I think because of him, I like read a Larry Levis. Oh no, I watched a documentary. There's a documentary about Larry Levis that I watched, and I was like, wow, this guy's poems are so good. And then Matthias just happened to be teaching this workshop, um, and the workshop, the premise was we read a different Larry Levis book every week for because he only wrote like 6 books, so it was like 6 weeks. We read a different book every week, and we just talked about it. We didn't even it wasn't even generative. We didn't write anything.
Oh, that's
Um,
fucking cool.
it was amazing. It was like transformative, and it was really special to. And Matthias sent us all these like copies, these like PDFs of the books, and um, yeah, I mean, it's like kind of rare to find somebody who you're. I feel like when I was in my very early 20s, I feel like every poet I read, I was like, oh my God, this is like the best, you know? And then
Mhm.
now it gets harder and harder to find like new poets who are really just like, you want to read everything they ever wrote. But yeah, definitely, yeah, Larry Levis was like very, very transformative for me.
Why? What was in the poems that you gravitated towards, or like?
He like, there's just so much. There's just so many like incredible. I could like read one of them if you want.
Okay,
Um, they're not. I'll try to find one that's not super long. He did write some long poems. Um, let's see. It's 208. See how long this one is. But I feel like when I read it, like you'll hear it, like the similarities. Maybe it'll be like too similar, and you'll just be like, Gion, you're just like
maybe.
ripping them off. Yeah, I can read this one. This one's called Winter Stars. Um, my father once broke a man's hand over the exhaust pipe of a John Deere tractor. The man, Ruben Vasquez, wanted to kill his own father with a sharpened fruit knife, and he held the curved tip of it lightly between his first 2 fingers so he could slash it horizontally with surprising grace across the throat. It was like a glinting beak in a hand, and for a moment the light held still on those vines. When it was over, my father simply went in and ate lunch, and then, as always, lay alone in the dark, listening to music. I never understood how anyone could risk his life, then listen to Vivaldi. Sometimes I go out into this yard at night and stare at through the wet branches of an oak in winter and realize I'm looking at the stars again, a thin haze of them, shining and persisting. It used to make me feel lighter looking up at them. In California, that light was closer. In a California no one will ever see again, my father is beginning to die. Something inside him slowly taking back every word it ever gave him. Now, if we try to talk, I watch my father search for a lost syllable as if it might solve everything. And though he can't remember now the word for it, he is ashamed. If you can think of the mind as a place continually visited, a whole city placed behind the eyes and shining, I can imagine now its end, as when the lights go off one by one in a hotel at night, until at last all the travelers will be asleep, or until even the thin glow from the lobby is a kind of sleep. And when the woman behind the desk is applying more lacquer to her nails, you can almost believe that the elevator, as it ascends, must open upon starlight. And I stand out in the street and do not go in. That was our agreement at my birth. And for years, I believed that what went unsaid between us became empty and pure, like starlight, and that it persisted. I got it all wrong. I wound up believing in words the way a scientist believes in carbon after death. Tonight, I am talking to you, Father, although it is quiet here in the Midwest, where a small wind, the size of a wrist, wakes the cold again, which may be all that's left of you and me. When I left home at 17, I left for good. The pale haze of stars goes on, like laughter that has found a final silent shape on a black sky. It means everything it cannot say. Look, it's empty out there and cold, cold enough to reconcile even a father, even a son. That's it.
Holy shit. Yes. the storytelling aspect of it,
Yeah.
it hits. Because I haven't been reading poems that like tell like a full like story of like life and shit, and then like it'll go into a deeper depth when like it involves like psychology of the mind.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, I love that shit.
I really love the way that he can like it feels very effortless the way he will like pull threads from the beginning that feel sort of like arbitrary, like it persisted, like and then he pulls it back in later. Like he's so good at that. It's very impressive.
So, what's the best book you think from him?
I think the widening spell of leaves is probably the best one.
Wow. What
Yeah.
what what years was he active?
Like the 70s and
Oh,
80s. He died
okay.
in the 90s.
From cocaine.
Or heroin. I don't
Oh,
know.
okay.
A combination of things. He was an addict for a lot of his life.
Yeah, a lot of poets are. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just very hard to be like a very sensitive instrument in a hurricane, you know? Like
You've written about this in a poem. Wow. See?
I think poets especially, I think are just very, very sensitive. It's being like a seismograph in like a category 8 earthquake or something, you know? And I think people often like I think poets medicate to feel less sensitive.
When you're talking to Mike, does it like you just like talk? You guys just talk back and forth like that?
Yeah, sometimes I think we tend to like get into it. Yeah, I think so.
Do you ever fight like that where you're just like opening up these deeper elevations, but like you're angry?
I don't know. I feel like no. I feel like we'll both eat it. Like if we're talking like that, like we'll get really fired up about whatever we're talking about. But I don't feel like that's like a fight kind of thing. It's just like being intense about it.
Do you guys get high and like write stuff down that you say out loud? Well, I guess yeah, you do. You put it in the book. You
I
perform it.
actually find it very hard to write when I'm high.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I always want it to like be more interesting. I actually wrote a poem recently. I had to take my cat to the emergency vet, and like when I took her, like I had been smoking weed, and then she like vomited blood, and I was like, "Oh my God, we have to go to the vet." And it was like nighttime, and she was fine. Nothing bad happened, but I was like very stoned at the emergency vet, and I like wrote a poem while I was sitting there because I didn't have anything else to do, and also because it felt very absurd to like be at the emergency vet.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, most of the time I can't really write when I'm high.
But in that situation, you go, "Oh, this situation's gonna make a great poem." Like
Yeah.
the day after.
Well, also I do feel like sometimes when I'm just like very bored and I can't go anywhere, like then I'll just start writing stuff on my phone, regardless of like what is happening to me. Um,
I
so
imagined you would like pen and paper and like taking it out of your pockets and like writing it down.
I wish that was more my vibe. I'm definitely like a notes app guy, unfortunately.
Do you format it while you're writing it?
Yeah, occasionally. I feel like when I'm writing it in like a notes app situation, I just write it and then I'll put it into like a Word doc and fix it later. Um,
Do you dream in poetry where you like you wake up and like, oh fuck, I had a poem in a dream that I got to write down?
I very rarely like I have a lot of dreams. I dream like very intensely and always have. Like I can remember dreams I had when I was like a very little kid.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I I don't feel like I end up I will use like a lot of images from dreams because I feel like they do stick with you, you know, but I don't feel like I end up with like a lot of words from dreams.
So, like you never like are like you have you're performing poems in a dream and you're like, oh, that's a great poem that I had in my dream, and then
You
like
know,
you have to write.
I do have dreams about performing poems, but usually what happens to me in those dreams is it's like a stress dream and I like forget how to read. Like I
Oh shit.
suddenly can't read. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like standing in front of a bunch of people and I'm like, I can't read this.
I bet you could perform, like you could improvise.
Yeah, I mean, I also have a lot of my poems memorized at this point,
Ooh,
for
August
performing.
Smith does that.
Yeah, I actually had like I did some poems at a show a couple weeks ago here in Denver, and there was a guy afterwards who was just a total stranger who came up to me, and I had the book, but I wasn't really like holding it, like I wasn't looking at it the whole time because I have the poem I was doing memorized, and um, this guy came up to me and he was like, "Is that even a real book?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was
What
like, "You
the
didn't look at it
fuck?
at all."
Oh shit.
And I was like, wow, do you just not know that you can memorize stuff? Like, I hope the rest of your first day on Earth goes well, you know?
Yeah. So do you
Yeah.
talk to August Smith?
Well, yeah, I've like hung out with August like in Austin before, and he and I will
Okay.
occasionally interact on Instagram. I really liked that book, The Red Star, that the alien book that he put out. Um, I guess that was probably like last year or something when that came out, but that book's really good. Um, But yeah, I'm like hoping to see him at AWP actually. I want to go to his reading because he's reading at the post pop lit event, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's a
Do
fun
you,
guy. I mean, he also does like music too, so you know,
oh yeah.
we
You
got
guys
some
should
things in common.
perform together, but I don't know if it would go that well. He has different
I think it would be fun, you know?
weird monster mash synth style. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were trying to like earlier in the year figure out how to do a reading like in Tulsa.
Oh yeah. We should do that.
Is that
We should
something that you
figure it out.
really think? Because I don't know. I doubt. Maybe it's not a doubt, but it's like or reluctance to even do in person stuff because I don't do a lot of like in person stuff. It has to be like a
I
special event.
feel
But
like I don't know a lot of people who are poets in Tulsa. I definitely know musicians, and so I would probably just do like a show, like a band show kind of thing. And then I like we could, you know, if August was there, if it was me or some or other poets, like could just also do poetry, and then there would be bands, you know. But
maybe
um,
sometime down the line because I
I
need
think it
to
would be
know
fun.
more. I need to know
Yeah,
more people. Yeah.
yeah,
So you really just like book it? Like you find you know a guy that's like books it
yeah.
and
I
he's like
mean that
six
band,
months
that you
from
know that
now,
bar, like the Whittier, I think it's called in Tulsa.
something like that.
Yeah,
Kindle,
it's
you know.
a cool bar. But the band has played there before, and so we like know the guy there or like have his email anyway. So yeah, I just email him and be like, "Can we have this day for this at your bar?" And then he'd probably be like, "Okay."
I'm such like a pessimist that like I just think of like everything that could go wrong or like overly think like oh we need
Mm.
like to have the lineup book we need to like have know people are coming or not and shit like that.
I feel like that is just a thing that when you start hosting events or like performing or whatever, like there is that anxiety. I mean, I've definitely done performances to rooms with nobody in them, like
Hmm.
many times at this point, you know? Um, and yeah, I think you just kind of are like, well, if it goes wrong, like no one's gonna kill me. Like I'm not gonna get executed for like having a bad show, you know, like nothing bad is actually gonna happen to you.
That makes
It's just
sense.
gonna
But
be kind of like you're not gonna have fun, but it's not like there's a punishment, you
I
know?
could have fun with no one but like I feel like the guy that you asked to book it for you would like get mad that you make money. There's a
It kind of depends on like the venue. I feel like a lot of places that have shows a lot, like just build like it's just something that happens, you know, and they like build it in to their model.
do you
And
tell do you hide the fact that you're reading poetry or do you just like we're doing music and then you sneak in poetry in the back door.
I it depends on what I'm doing, honestly, because you know, I do it two ways. Like one of the ways is I just do some poems with with other bands.
Oh.
And then that is kind of like it's kind of like a special like see it's sort of like a special thing that happens, you know. But if it's me doing like a whole set, I do advertise it as poetry. Yeah. Like when I did the book, we had a book release show here where I did like a full 45-minute thing, and that was like when I booked the show, it was like we're doing poetry, you know?
Did you read the entire book?
No, no, I
Mhm.
did like I don't know, probably 6 or 7 poems, but
Okay.
they're long, you know. I read the first one in the book, which is quite long to read. It's like a 10-minute thing.
But you
Um,
probably got the people behind you after you read that. They're like, fuck, we're here to
I
listen
think
to.
I think one of the things is like I think a lot of people who are in poetry, myself included, like when I started doing poetry with music this way, I also had this feeling like the first time I ever did it with music was in Sacramento, California. It was a show where I was on tour with Clementine Was Right. I was unemployed. I was just hanging out. I wasn't like there to do anything. Um, and the band had to play this show that was like a 3 hour bar set for a guarantee. So you play for 3 hours, you get paid like, I don't know what it was, $500 or something. But you have to like play the whole time. And we didn't have enough music to fill 3 hours. And I had written that first piece in the book. I had written it like the day before on that tour, and my friend Riley, who was playing guitar on that tour, was like, "What if you just read this poem and we play music under it?" And I think Mike and I both had this reaction of like, everyone's gonna fucking hate us if we do that, you know. But I don't know. I was down. I was like, whatever. Who cares? Like, it's just the other thing about being trans is like you get over being embarrassed very quickly because you have to. Your whole
Yeah.
life becomes very embarrassing, and then you have to like you just get over being embarrassed. But um, it just like I feel like that moment, like in that bar in Sacramento, like we just happened to be there the same night that there were some people like celebrating the life of their friend who had passed away who used to work at the bar. And they loved it, and it was like very emotional, like it was very moving. They were all obviously very emotional because their friend had passed away and stuff, but also just like very excited that I had done that. And I feel like there is sort of a vibe with poets that like everyone is going to hate us for doing what we're doing or something, but I think people actually like really want it, you know. I think there is like a I don't know. I've never like I feel like, you know, I've read now these poems like in front of rooms of 700 people and stuff, and people are so into it, you know, and
Well, because it's
it's
good. Like, if it's bad poetry, I feel like people wouldn't be into it. But
well,
it's
that's the
good
thing. I
poetry.
mean, yeah, that's obviously like part of it, I think, but also just like I think people like want more of that sort of stuff in their life and don't know how to get it because I think it's just sort of like an insular community. And I also think poets just like don't believe that other people want them around or something. And I feel like I've personally learned that people do, you know.
But also, you're presenting it in a new way, or presenting it in a form that maybe people that go to those places don't have that opportunity to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of the people who go to like indie rock shows at dive bars are like the same. I mean, I think there is some overlap, but I think most of them aren't also going to like a poetry reading,
Hmm.
you know, at a college or something the next day. Um,
Would you make the designated stranger like logo into like a rock indie shirt?
I'm actually like I have a friend actually in Denver who's like making one for me.
Oh fuck, cool.
Um, I haven't I don't know if it's gonna have designated stranger on it actually, but yeah, we're making one. I like am releasing we actually just recorded it last weekend, but I'm releasing like a an album of recorded poems from Designated Stranger with music. Um, so there's gonna be some like merch and stuff for that for sure.
Yeah, I like a CD.
Yeah. Yeah, CD. I want to get vinyl. I feel like that would be fun.
How much does
But
that cost? Is that
it's
cheap?
expensive.
Okay.
No, it's expensive. It's like for I think like we got like 100 or 150 vinyls for the Clementine album, and they were like $9 a copy printing.
Oh,
So
that's not
it's
that bad.
expensive.
Didn't Mike like do a record thing before? Or is that someone else?
A record thing?
Yeah, well, he made a vinyl thing. Yeah, like it was like
Yeah. No, I mean we have like the. Oh, you mean like before the
like
band or before?
yeah, he like made them or something. Like he had like a press or
I mean,
something.
he had a press. I don't know. He had a press, and the press did also have some like kind of experimental books and stuff. But I don't know if there was a vinyl. I'm not actually sure.
Mm. It does. Maybe it's not him, but it sounds like something he would have.
It's like a thing that people do, you know. People definitely like my friend Chris from Fine Print Paper in Baton Rouge has done poetry like poetry vinyls before too.
I also want to say the poem in the book about Oklahoma did not hit me as strong as the one that says, "But all do not say." I think
Yeah.
because I feel like
Well,
even
you're like from Oklahoma, you know.
yeah, I if I see a place, I don't like relate to places as much as like human experiences. I guess everyone's like
Hmm.
that. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
yeah.
why only Oklahoma? Because even though I saw Louisiana in there.
That poem actually was like the time we played at the Whittier in Tulsa
Oh, okay.
in 2023, and like we had like a pretty rough tour in Texas. It was like February, and it had just been like shows with nobody at them like over and over again, and it was pretty depressing and like demoralizing. And our friends from Fayetteville, Arkansas, were like meeting us in Tulsa to like guest star at the show with us. And they like brought their friends from Fayetteville, and like some other people we knew from Tulsa came. And so there were actually people at the show, which was good. And our friends were there. And it really did feel like we got rescued by crossing into Oklahoma. Like
Oh,
we like
nice.
from Texas, you know, it was like a rescue. It felt very like we made it, like we got away from Texas, you know. And I introduced that poem like with a joke sometimes that's like when you've been in Texas for so long that going to Oklahoma starts to feel like a good idea, you know. um, but yeah, I mean, it just felt like we did some kind of like purgatory, and then we got out of it in Oklahoma.
What's the threshold for the amount of people that you would like prefer to have at every show? It would make it a good show.
I think that it also sort of depends on the audience, honestly. I feel like if you have an attentive audience of like four people, that could be a great show, you know, if they're
Hmm.
like really into it. And then you can have like a shitty show that has like 50 people at it or something that are like where they're all talking and not paying attention or whatever. Um, I feel like an optimal amount of people is like, for me, is like 60 to 80 people. I feel like that's a nice size because it's not so big that like everyone's talking, and it's not so small that it feels like kind of awkward or something. But I think you can have a great show with not that many people. I like it when there's more people than just the sound guy. That's my threshold.
Oh, that's good.
like like two people is great, you know?
If you got 60, 80, and then you're doing, and like someone's like they're doing their poems, I feel like that's a fucking mega hit for them.
I'm
Because usually you
yeah,
get like what 20 people at like a normal like reading if it
yeah,
goes good.
yeah.
So 60, 80 is like a big deal. It'd be fucking massive.
I mean, that is sort of the secret or the I mean, it feels like I found this hilarious cheat code of like I don't play an instrument and I can't sing, but I can be in a band and I can read poetry in front of like more than 15 people every day.
Hmm.
um,
And they're new
like
people too. It's not like
yeah, new
rotating.
people. Yeah, it's not the same like 15 poets, you know, in your town over and over again.
Hmm.
Um, Yeah, I mean, I feel like the reason that this is working for me is because I struggle with that as a model, like that kind of very insular, like let's all go to like some DIY gallery space with like our four friends and just like all read to each other
But it's like
again. You
you
know?
found a way to break out of that. Like I feel like a lot of people would like to break out of it, but there's not a model to do that, and you found your own way.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of I feel like I see people complaining about poetry readings a lot, which I feel is deserved. I feel like there are a lot of poetry readings that are not fun to be at
Hmm.
or read at, but
You need a fucking
yeah,
guitar.
I think that there just aren't a lot of models like offered to people.
Yeah.
You know, I think we all assume that the only thing we can do is like do bookstore readings to like or library readings or whatever it is to like the 10 people who show up. Um, and I don't know. I just don't think like I don't think for whatever reason I don't think that poets are often like that creative about their thinking when it comes to stuff like that. You
Yeah.
know.
I've thought about that too. Yeah. We're very
I
like
also just I also
confined
just
to
think
our
that a lot
own
of
ways.
yeah. I also think there are a lot of poets who just don't really like performing, which is fine. You know. Like I think there are a lot of poets who would get really stressed out by the idea of being in front of more than like 20 people, which is fair. I get that.
But the queerness helps, I guess, in that way. Maybe or maybe not.
I think it does a little bit. I mean, I've always been a very extroverted person, and being in front of people doesn't really like give me a lot of anxiety. And I think that, yeah, like being queer is kind of,
You're like
I
a
think
supervillain.
it gives you a little bit more like rope or something in front of an audience like that, where they're like, oh, like you're here because like the band wants to seem cool or something. And then like you can like prove yourself a little bit that like, you're
Yeah.
there because you're like a good artist, but
Hmm.
you know.
Would you ever write a manual for people that they could buy from you on doing what you do with a band on the poetry? So you could like,
That would be fun. I don't know. I'm gonna be the visiting writer for the Utah State University uh MFA program
oh,
next
fun.
month. Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited about it.
So like a
But
professor?
I mean for like a day, I'm gonna do like a
Wow.
craft talk and then
That's a
do a
big
reading.
deal.
Yeah, no, it's great. I feel excited about it. The co-editor of the press that my book is on, Third Hand, works at Utah State, so he got me the slot, which is really nice.
Wow.
But yeah, they want me to do a craft talk that's like about performing, and so I've been trying to figure out like what to say about that.
You should bring your
And
band.
I know that would be really cool. That would be really fun. Um, but yeah, I am trying to figure out like how to teach it in a way that doesn't just seem like you have to change everything about your life or like the only way to be a successful performer poet is to like be friends with musicians or something.
I think there's
So
a lot of overlap though with poets and musicians. Maybe not.
I think there's like more overlap than dissimilarities for sure. I think
No.
musicians like it's interesting like knowing both musicians and poets because poets are very individualistic in their art by
Hmm.
definition. Like you write a poem by yourself, but musicians like are just collaborative, for the
Yeah.
most part. Like they want to work with other people, they want to collaborate with you. And I think like I personally have never really experienced that before I started doing stuff with musicians. Because poets don't want to write poems together most of the time. you know?
Yeah, yeah. It's always weird when I see like people like collaborated or like corroborated. I'm like, how do you do that? I couldn't like do that with someone. Just like sit down,
Yeah,
like write like a thing together. But I want to say like what you said like makes sense because you see a lot of like people that like write pop songs and then they'll sell it to like the artist. I couldn't see
right.
like a poet like doing that because it's so personal. Yeah,
I
you can like
know. I mean,
hear.
poets.
I'll sell this
often
to.
work in, I mean, poets, like, you know that line, it's halftime in America from like the Super Bowl? You remember that? That
No.
ad? It was like a car ad or something. Like a poet wrote that. Like there's poets that work in
Um,
marketing. I work in
Oh,
marketing as a poet, and I feel like that's sort of the equivalent of that is like you sell
true.
it as an ad.
Yeah. What's your best line that you've come up with in marketing?
Oh,
Can you say? Is it too good?
I feel like most of the marketing I do is like so like I work in water. Um,
Oh.
and so I do marketing for like water advocacy mostly. And so it's not like super interesting. It's not very sensational. It's very like
Oh, okay.
uh do this. I'm like doing this I can probably talk about this. I don't think it's a secret. There's like a big report that my company is releasing about infrastructure failures in the United States, which is very depressing. But I'm like writing the copy for that, like the ad copy for that report, and it's like, it's basically just like household water bills are going to increase by
Oh my God.
126% by 2050, like that kind of stuff. It's not like that exciting. Um,
Okay. Shit. Is that get like boring though? Like, does that like kill your soul? I guess if you believe in it and like it's something like it aligns with your politics, maybe not.
I've definitely been in jobs that were very soul killing.
Hmm.
I feel like this one is better because I mean, water is like a very black and white issue.
Yeah.
It's like everyone should have water. That
Hmm.
is the right answer every time. And everybody who I work with is very passionate about that as like a mission, and about making people's lives like tangibly better, in a
Yeah.
very physical, like concrete way, which I think that's a nice thing when you're an artist and you're working in like vagary all the time with
Hmm.
art.
I was thinking. I guess I should let you go. It's been like 90 minutes.
Oh, it's fine.
But yeah. I wanted to ask. Like a lot of people that I deal with are like they like to hide under the anonymity of like the internet, and they like to create like maybe like not like alt egos, but like they like to disguise themselves and like use a vagueness of like
Hmm.
to hide from like gender or politics or like identity to escape from
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And you do the, I want to say the opposite, but like you're putting yourself out there. Like a lot of people do that, but how do you feel? Do you have any feelings towards that? I don't know if it's really a question, but
No, that's a good question. I feel like sort of complicated about it. I think probably everyone does. I feel like the internet is a very different place than it was when I was like a teenager. And uh uh you know, I also feel like there's a lot of anxiety, like people have a lot of anxiety about like you're going to be on a list or something
hmm
if you talk about this. And it's like I'm already on the list. Like
yeah, I
I
don't
take a
really.
medication that is federally regulated. Like they know about me. Nothing I say on Instagram is going to help me. Um,
Yeah, people get really
and
paranoid about what they say, like on a podcast. Like people will not talk about certain subjects.
oh, I don't know. I feel like
I feel like no one's
most things
listening.
most things I would just say to somebody anyway. Like I'm not
Yeah.
like a person who's gonna like fuck around with that. Like if Ocean
Hmm.
Vuong talked to me tomorrow, I'd be like, Ocean, I would have said this to you, like to your face.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think that it is like as a queer person or a trans person or whatever, it's like good to model not being afraid, even when you are, and good to model like being successful and like being happy, um, with what you're doing.
Do you feel like a certain responsibility and like responsibility you want to shirk to away from? Like, ugh.
Yeah, I feel like I've been feeling pretty complicated about that recently. Just like it feels. I don't know. I've been thinking about like the Bad Bunny. I'm like talking about Bad Bunny again. But
That's
like
right.
his halftime show, I watched it and like, I wish that we as like not we as me and Bad Bunny, but like queer people, uh like watching the Bad Bunny halftime show, I really realized that like if you are a marginalized person who's very threatened by the state, you can't even be mad about it in public. Like you can't actually say anything. Like he
Hmm.
had like the power lines and he had like the sugar cane and he had all these things about like what it is to like live and grow up in a colonized state, um colonized by the United States. But he couldn't ever be mad. Like his message had to be like we all love each other and like look, aren't we like normal people too? Like we all like have fun and like enjoy our lives and like, I'm sure that in private like he's furious about what's going on, but
Hmm.
he can't like do that. And I feel that way all the time of like when I'm on stage, I'm not trying to win over anyone who actively hates me. I'm trying to keep all the people who say they're on my side, and that sucks. It's hard. And I feel like I feel a responsibility to other queer people and other trans people to show that like things can be okay and like things can get better or like you don't have to like um live a horrible life um if you decide to do this. But I also feel for people who aren't trans, I'm just like begging and pleading for them to see me as a person, even if they technically in theory agree with me in my lifestyle, quote unquote. Like I think that there's a disconnect between like being an ally and like being a person who cares. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah. What did you mean by you're trying to get people who care to care or something?
Well, I think
I think
that
I know what
like
you
when I
mean.
when I've been in a room, when I've performed for a lot of people, like you're always going to be like the freak, you know? And
Do you think
in that
you really
moment,
think?
I think you have to sort of like, especially because poetry, like I'm doing it by like, even if I have music
Yeah.
with me, I'm like the only person talking, It's like I'm doing something different and I am a different kind of person. And, you know, I always feel like there's this element of like, especially with like cis people or straight people in crowds, that's very like, well, aren't you so brave for like doing that, And it's like, I don't want you to see me as someone who's brave. I want you to see me as somebody who like deserves to like not have to be brave all the time and not have to like say over and over again, like trans people should have rights.
Yeah. I think I brought that up like the first podcast, and you're like, "I'm not brave. I was gonna." You're like, "I'm just gonna fucking die if I didn't change." And I was like, "Oh shit,
Yeah.
it's powerful." All right. So once you have a book done, do you just like coast a little bit for a little bit?
I feel like there's some I feel like the book, like I don't even know if it's coasting exactly. I feel like when I get done with a project, I feel very lost and like I don't know really what to do now, like with myself, with my writing. I feel like I've been writing a lot of poems that feel like pretty bleak to me in a way that I don't feel bleak all the time. But I feel like
Hmm.
I've been writing these poems that feel sort of like apocalyptic or something. And I don't, I don't love that, but I also feel like it has to happen.
Hmm.
They have to get written down, I guess. But
Like you got to write through it.
yeah, yeah. Like
What if you just like
um,
go on full apocalypse and just like set it in like an apocalyptic
that would
metaphorical
be
sense?
cool. Maybe I should do that. I don't know. I like, I feel feel like, yeah, with the coasting thing, like I feel like there's a little coasting for sure. I feel like when my
But
book got accepted last year, I was like, oh God, thank you. I don't have to fucking do any of this for a little while, you know? But
but the process of like getting published isn't it like pretty slow?
it
Like,
is. It's very slow.
do you have any other you probably have like tons and tons of other poems that you've like put together and compiled.
I actually like I do have other poems. I do feel like I have some like kind of just like errant poems that aren't really connected to a project that have been published and stuff. And like I do have a lot of stuff that I've written that doesn't feel done or doesn't feel like it's really I've really figured out what it's supposed to be yet. I have
What other
some pages like towards new projects, which is cool, but yeah.
are you gonna write a novel?
I would honestly like I would honestly love to write. I actually have this idea, like I've sort of been working on like a nonfiction book about like touring with bands and stuff. Because I was writing like tour diaries last year on Substack that people really liked, and I've been sort of considering like just putting together a book of things like that, which I think could be cool. Um, but
I didn't pick that up at all in the book. Like,
oh, the
I love
touring
that.
thing.
Yeah, I love that. That's like one of the backdrops for like creating the poems. Like,
Well, it's
pretty
like
hidden.
nice to know that it feels like they exist without that as like a premise,
Yeah,
you know. That's good.
I love the line where you're like drenched in mud and you're like the
Yeah.
Memphis mud like glitters. That reminded me of the Caroline Rayner, like the Moan Wild, some of the mud stuff.
Oh yeah, she has some mud stuff for sure. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like that poem is my most like C.D. Wright or like Frank Stanford-esque poem.
Do you assign certain like people that have inspired you to like certain poems?
It kind of depends, honestly. Like it kind of depends on like what I'm reading when I write the poem. Like
Do you ever like not put something in because it sounds like someone else too much? Like, oh,
yes,
I can't use it.
yeah,
Oh,
that
really?
is definitely like I honestly feel like a lot of the poems in the book, like I was trying to write stuff like Larry Levis,
Oh
and
well.
then
No one
I
is.
wrote like a bunch of little pieces of things, and then I started to sort of build them out into being my own thing and not really like
Yeah.
just ripping off Larry Levis.
Yeah.
But yeah,
How far away do you try to move away from it? Like how much time? Your poems, they feel like. I mean, some poems you can tell someone like sat down and wrote them like in a day. These feel like they've taken a long time to process.
some of them took longer than others for sure.
Maybe you just
I
know the
honestly feel
process
like the
is the
amount of
poetry.
time is like not even the writing, but it's like the experiences that I
Mm-hmm.
needed to have to write the poems had to happen, which like that takes time and you also don't it's not guaranteed. Like you're like, well, I'm gonna go on this trip. I have no idea if I'm gonna get anything out of it, but it'd be cool if I did, you know. So I feel like that is like the time consuming part about writing is like waiting for things to happen to
Or
you.
maybe you know the tricks and how to present something in a slower pace than you did when you were younger, so you
Yes,
trick the
yeah.
reader.
I think that's true. Yeah.
How many details do you need between like one action onto another action? It probably differs between every poem.
That's a tough one because I do feel like I just always want to include everything. Like I remember so much stuff and I have so many things that I like cut out or left out of the book because I was like, well, you can only have like I don't want to write like just like a grocery list of like things that I saw, you know, like it has to have like some different kind of momentum. Um So yeah, that's definitely a thing I honestly like struggle with a little bit because I want there to be so much of
I feel like that's where
the
your
book.
strengths is, though. Is like it comes out so good.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, I think that's the process. I mean, honestly, these poems, like some of them like much longer, and I cut them down a lot. You know,
Oh, for
to
real? Wow, I should have kept
yeah.
going. I like when it keeps going, but I guess you do need like an end. If the book feels like it's a good length, though, I feel like I was like when it was came to an end, I feel like it was time to end. And a lot of books aren't like that. A lot of books have
Mhm.
like several books inside of them. It feels like
Oh yeah, I agree with that.
60 pages is the optimal amount. You think?
60 pages is pretty good. I think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it also depends. Like I said, I wanted this to feel like a very complete, like single book. You know,
Hmm.
and actually, we added the last poem. Like the book had already been accepted by the press, and Kylan, one of the editors, like suggested adding another poem to the end, and he was talking about like reordering it, like pulling another poem from somewhere else in the book. But then I sent him that poem and said, like, do you think this would be a good poem for the end? And he
Yeah.
he thought so. So yeah,
Oh, that's cool. All right.
yeah,
Well, I think I'll let you go. Should I ask like an
cool.
in?
Yeah, this has been a while.
Yeah. Sorry to keep you forever. Yeah, I just like talking to
No,
people. And
this is fun. This is good. I
what
hope it felt
what
like a good discussion.
any questions you wanted me to ask, but I haven't to wrap things up.
I don't think so. Are you going to
Okay.
be at AWP?
Yes.
You are. Oh, you said you're going to be in Baltimore because your sister's
Yeah.
orchestra. Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Well, maybe we'll see each other then.
Maybe. Yeah. I'll have to get your signature for the book.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And if you're selling any shirts, I might buy one of those.
I'm not gonna have. I don't think I'll have shirts by then, unfortunately.
Okay. I'll just
Finally,
take duct tape and like spell out the title on
that
the book.
counts too. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'll make sure you get a shirt like when I do make shirts.